أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا عاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عبد الله ورسوله أما بعد. We thank the Almighty Allah for giving us another opportunity to be here. We thank Him for His mercies that He's bestowed upon us. We bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except the Almighty Allah. We also bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and His messenger. Alhamdulillah, today is a Friday, the 23rd day of Ramadan, 1444 years after the hijrah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I think it corresponds with 14th of April, yes, 2023. It just looked like just yesterday that we started Ramadan. It just looks like just yesterday. And today might tentatively be the last Friday in the month of Ramadan. Because next Thursday is going to be the 29th day of Ramadan. So as usual, if we sight the moon, we pray on Friday. But if we don't see the moon, then next Friday becomes, the 30th day of Ramadan. But just as a reminder, some of the scholars are of the opinion that when one of the odd nights, if it happens to be a Friday night, and understand this, when we say Friday night within the Sharia, it is not Friday after sunset, it's Thursday after sunset. So that's Friday night in Islam, even scientifically, because the night begins before the day. So last night was a potential night of Laylatul Qadr, because it was the 23rd night, it was also a Friday. And Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali and some of the scholars, made that opinion that it's possible that it is a night of Laylatul Qadr. If it is, may the Almighty Allah grant us. But that shouldn't mean that the rest of the days you're done. No. Continue, searching for the night, and may the Almighty Allah, grant us success. Last Tuesday, we stopped on Surah Al-Kafirun, Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun, where we spoke about, the relationship between Muslims and non-Muslims. It's very, very important. Al-Wala wal-Bara, which is owing allegiance and then, distancing yourself from, kufr and its people. But that doesn't mean that you cannot have a responsible and a cordial relationship with non-Muslims. Muslims should understand that. In as much as we have independence of identity and ideology, and especially we've come to an age where it's all about identity. This is who I am. This is who I am. It's very important that we Muslims have our own identities, not mixed up with other people's identities. That is number one. But the fact that we have a unique identity doesn't mean that we cannot have nice, beautiful, and cordial relationships with non-Muslims. No. And let's not forget, the Prophet Muhammad, when he died, his armor was with a Jew. He had put it for collateral to get food. So that's how the Prophet Muhammad lived with them. He does business with them. He has cordial relationship with them. But when the issues of red lines come, they don't cross the red line. And as a Muslim, that should be your position. In your workplace, they should know you are a Muslim. Clear. In your home, they should know you are a Muslim. But then, you should also be the first person that they seek advice from. That they seek help from. They know you're a true person. And they know if at any point in time they need help, you are the best person they can go to. That is the life of a Muslim. So it doesn't mean that when we say you should stand fast, you should you should have a clear identity. That doesn't mean that Muslims cannot come closer to you. They can come closer to you. But then when they are coming close, they know that he has some red lines that we don't cross. But if you need any help, go see Muhammad. Let the non-Muslims have that testimony of you. That if you need someone to do clear and fair business on this street, go look for Muhammad, man. He's going to get you the genuine goods. He's going to get you a good price. He's not going to deceive you. He's not going to cheat you. We need to create that atmosphere. And alhamdulillah, that atmosphere is being created. The reason why I'm saying this is that almost every day in this month of Ramadan, people come to join Islam, and you bring your friends to come and accept Islam. You bring your neighbors to come and accept Islam. You bring your co-workers to come and accept Islam. We are doing the dawah in the masjid, and you are doing the dawah on the streets. That's a fact. You take the information from us and you take it there onto the street. It's your character that is making these people accept Islam. Because we don't live in a predominantly Muslim community where you hear the adhan all the time and stuff like that. No, you are the ambassadors of Islam. And I'm not saying this to flatter you. No, I'm only saying this to encourage all of us to be steadfast on the deen and be positive ambassadors for the deen. You are the ones doing that. So let's continue. Let's purify our intentions. Let's purify our hearts. Because I remember one day in Ramadan, we had almost 12 people who came to accept Islam in this masjid alone. In the first 10 days, in the month of Ramadan, I've lost track actually. In the first 10, 15 days, I heard that in the Philadelphia, area, more than 500 people accepted Islam in the first 15 days. And who are the ones doing the job? You. So, in as much as we have a clear identity as Muslims, as who we are, we also have to what? Have a nice, respectful, cordial relationship with non-Muslims so as to send the deen. This deen is not being, propagated with, force and envy. No, and power and strictness. No. This deen is propagated with wisdom and tacit and in a way that the person, by the time he realizes he's a Muslim, not because you've deceived him, but because you emit some fragrance of Islam, and the person realizes that, no, I just need to get, into this deen. May Almighty Allah safeguard us. Today we are going to look at Surah Al-Kawthar, and Sheikh can give us a rendition of, the surah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Naam.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر.
This is arguably the shortest surah in the Quran. It's the shortest, with only 3 verses and 10 words. Only 10 words in the surah. You have Inna أعطيناك الكوثر 3 فصل لربك وانحر 6 إن شانئك هو الأبتر 10 words in the surah. And astonishing enough, 5 words in the surah are found only in the surah, and you can't find them in any other surah. Abtar, Shani'aka, Inhar, Al-Kawthar, and Fasalli. These 5 words are found only in the surah. You can't find them anywhere in the Quran except in this surah. And this surah, if you observe, Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar fasalli li-rabbika wanhar inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. It all ends with ra, ra, ra. That's to give you the rhythm that the Quran beats all levels of poetry. It doesn't meet the criteria, it beats the criteria. That's the Quran. So if you are looking for some, they call it saja in the Arabic language, some rhythm with, the last, letter being the same, the Quran beats it. You get it in most of the surah like that. The Almighty Allah is just proving a point to the Arabs, because the Arabs, they call themselves orators, people who can speak, people who have language, people who have mastery over language. And Almighty Allah sends down a book that beats all systems of grammar that they have, that goes beyond the language that they speak. So, in the end, they had to say Muhammad was a sorcerer. He was a magician. Because they knew very well that he has not gone to school. They knew he has never sat in a classroom. They knew he has never held a pen before. And that is in itself, it's a miracle for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because if the Prophet was a learned man in Mecca, it would not be a surprise that he has produced a book like this. Oh, after all, he is a learned man. But then they know this guy couldn't write his own name. They knew that. And then he produces such a book. Labid ibn Rabi'a, Is that the name? He had in Arabic, literature, we have al-mu'allaqat. And the al-mu'allaqat are poetry that, because of, the beauty of Kaaba in Jahiliyyah times. So you have Labid, who was one of those poets. So he wrote, a poetry insulting the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he pasted it on the walls of the Kaaba. And people will come and read, and then they will laugh, read and laugh. And then one Muslim just wrote some few verses of the Quran, and then he pasted it next to Labid's poetry, which was insulting Islam. So Labid, as usual, came passing by, to check, you posted something on the wall, and then he saw another parchment next to his. And then he read it, and then he screamed. And the people of Quraysh were like, Labid, what's going on? He said, Ma hadha, what is this? They said, no, this is just the Quran of Muhammad. Someone just wrote it. He said, Dulluna alayhi. Direct me to where Muhammad is. And then he went, and the Prophet Muhammad read the Quran to him. And then he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. He said, this that you've said is beyond human manufacturing. A human being cannot produce this.
Allah Akbar.
During the time of Umar bin Khattab, Umar told him, Ya Labid, wouldn't you, give us a rendition, just give us some few lines, give us a freestyle, as you say. And Labid read to him Surah Al-Baqarah. And then Umar said, Labid, I didn't say read Surah Al-Baqarah. I said, give me poetry, man. I know the Quran. Give me some poems. Because Umar used to love poems. And he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, the very first day I learned how to read the Quran, I've put aside everything else.
Allah Akbar.
I'm not going to use my mouth to read or say anything again except the Quran. So this is the surah Inna A'tainaka al-Kawthar. So the first name, as we normally do, let's look at the names of the surah. The first name, Tawqifiyya, which we find in the text, is Surah Al-Kawthar. We'll come and look at the meaning of Al-Kawthar, what it means, and what are the connotations of Al-Kawthar. So Al-Kawthar, and we also have Inna A'tainaka al-Kawthar being the name of the surah. We have Surah An-Nahr, the chapter of the slaughter or the chapter of the sacrifice. And An-Nahr could also mean your throat or your neck. An-Nahr could mean. We'll come and explain that. Part of the virtues of the surah is Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu says, Bayna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam dhata yawmin bayna adhurina. He said one day we were with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, idh aghfa ighfa'atan. And then he had, he just slept off, or he just passed out, because it's part of the ways that the Almighty Allah sends the wahi. The Prophet Muhammad will pass out, and then Jibril will bring you the message, or sometimes he hears it as if it is a bell being rung to him in his ears, and this is very, very serious for him. Or sometimes he will see the angel in the likeness of the angel, and then he saw Jibril twice like that. And then sometimes Jibril will come in the form of a human being. In that regard, the Sahaba will see him, but they will see a human being. So sometimes he will pass out. And sometimes in the cold weather, you see him sweating, feeling hot. Sometimes in the heat of the weather, you see him feeling cold. It's all ways through which, the wahi is revealed to him. And Almighty Allah programmed him in that way. That is why it is only prophets that receive wahi. If someone today comes to tell you that he receives wahi, he is lying. Straightforward. That is why we don't have any prophet in Islam, apart from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Maybe in other religions you see someone, he's a prophet, and he's doing all kinds of things. But for us in Islam, we don't have sainthood in Islam. That is why you don't hear saints this and this. We don't have that. Sainthood, which means perfection, was buried the day the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was buried, and that's it. Every other person makes mistakes. That's the aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But for our neighbors, the Sufis, they believe that some of their people, their sheikhs, their walis, their saints, they can intercede on their behalf. They ask them things and stuff like that. But for us in aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, no. Sainthood was buried the day the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was buried. Abu Bakr Siddiq is not a saint. Umar bin Khattab is not a saint. Uthman bin Affan is not a saint. Ali bin Abi Talib is not a saint. The rest of the Ashara are not saints. They are human beings like us, but then they are better than us because they were the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They witnessed the live revelation of the Quran. They learned from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People say that the goodness of the student is a reflection of what? The goodness of the teacher, right? If you have a best teacher, the students are going to come out best. So what do you say about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his students? Let's say that's enough for us. And even if that, the Almighty Allah said, radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu. The Almighty Allah is pleased with them and then they are pleased with the Almighty Allah. May the Almighty Allah grant us safety. After the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed out, ثُمَّ رَفَعَ رَأْسَهُ مُبْتَسِمًا, and then he woke up and then he was smiling. فَقُلْنَا مَا أَضْحَكَكَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. What makes you smile, Ya Rasulullah? What makes you laugh? قَالَ أُنزِلَتْ عَلَيَّ آنِفًا سُورَةً. Right now, a surah was revealed, and then he read, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرَ, to the end. ثُمَّ قَالَ, and then the Prophet said, أَتَدْرُونَ مَا الْكَوْثَرُ. Do you know what is Kawthar? قُلْنَا اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَعْلَمُ. They said, Allah and His Messenger know best. قَالَ إِنَّهُ نَهْرٌ. It is a stream, a river. وَعَدَنِيهِ رَبِّي عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. That my Lord promised me. عَلَيْهِ خَيْرٌ كَثِيرٌ. It has a lot of good in it, this river, this stream. هُوَ حَوْضٌ. It is like a basin. تَرُدُ عَلَيَّ أُمَّتِي يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. My ummah will gather around that basin on the day of Qiyamah. آنِيَتُهُ عَدَدُ النُّجُومِ. Then cups, or the bowls that we are going to drink from that basin, it's plenty like the number of what? Stars we have in the sky. فَيُخْتَلَى عَبْدٌ مِّنْهُمْ. One of the people, I think it's a call. The angel would drive the person away. فَأَقُولُ رَبِّي إِنَّهُ مِنْ أُمَّتِي. And I will say, oh Allah, this guy that is being driven away is a member of my ummah. فَيَقُولُ مَا تَدْرِي مَا أَحْدَثَتْ بَعْدَكَ. You don't know what they invented after you. This hadith is a strong warning against bid'ah. If you invent anything in the deen that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not aware of, on the day of Qiyamah, you will not drink from Al-Kawthar. You will not drink. Because if you invent something in the deen, you are saying two things. The first thing is, that thing that you've invented, especially in the month of Ramadan that we are here, people want to get a lot of reward. People want to get closer to the Almighty Allah. So some people create all forms of nafila, all forms of adhkar. They create it and then they send it across social media. Today is the 24th night. If you want to get closer to the Almighty Allah, you do nafila, 15 rakahs. In each rakah you read Inna Atainaka al-Kawthar 75 times. Inna Atainaka al-Kawthar is 3 verses. 75 times 3 times 2 is 150 plus another 75. That's 225. Almost Surah Al-Baqarah. There's nothing like that in the deen. Inasmuch as the Almighty Allah has given us, or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has spoken about some surah you can read a lot of times, like Surah Al-Qul Huwallahu that we read, Surah Al-Ikhlas. Authentic hadith says, if you read Qul Huwallahu 10 times, the Almighty Allah builds a house for you in Jannah. This is clear. But with Inna Atainaka al-Kawthar, we don't have anything like that. So you don't create it. You don't create it. So if the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam doesn't know of it, how did you know? If the Prophet doesn't know of it, how did you come about it? You are now accusing the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam of ignorance in the deen. So be very careful. Okay, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam knows it, but he didn't teach us. How did you get the information? You are now accusing the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam of hiding knowledge. When the Almighty Allah said, Ya Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka. Naam.
يا أيها الرسول بلغ ما أنزل إليك
من ربك
من ربك فإن لم تفعل فما بلغت رسالته والله يعصمك من الناس.
The Almighty Allah said, Ya ayyuha Rasul, O you Prophet, balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. Give the message, deliver it. And you are saying this is something that you know in the deen that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he knew but he didn't tell us. Are you telling us the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam what? He disobeyed Almighty Allah. So this just by the way. So if you are into bid'ah, you are not going to drink from this basin of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the angels will pull you out. Because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself said, "For yuhtala al-abdu minhum." One of the servants will be pulled out. Al-khulu is like you are taking off your clothes. So the person will be pulled out of the group. All of us are going to drink the water, and then you will be pulled out. And the Prophet Muhammad will be concerned. Ya Allah, this guy is part of my ummah, because it's only the ummah that is coming there. And then you'll be told, Ma tadri ma ahdathat ba'dak. You don't know what they created behind you. So this is part of the virtues of what? Inna atanaka al-kawthar. It teaches us that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had to read, we are going to drink from that, and Almighty Allah speaks about that, I think, in Surah Al-Insan. عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ يُفَجِّرُونَ تَفْجِيرًا يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ, up to that end. And Almighty وَسَقَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ شَرَابًا طَهُورًا, and that they are going to be given a drink by the Almighty Allah Himself, and it's all part of it. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in another hadith by Abdullah ibn Zayd, that is found in Bukhari. The first hadith that we spoke about is found in Sahih Muslim. The one in Bukhari, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Usburu hatta talqawni ala al-hawd." Isbiru hatta talqawni ala al-hawd. Be patient with the trials and tribulations until you meet me on the basin on the day of Qiyamah, where you are going to drink that water. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma says he heard the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, "Hawdi kama bayna Adin wa Umman." My basin is as huge as between Aden, and Aden is in Yemen, and Oman in Oman, and is very far. I think it's even more than from here to Texas. The Prophet ﷺ says that's how big the basin of water is on the day of Qiyamah. His basin where we are going to drink from. Abrad min al-thalj. It is colder than snow. It is in the desert during that time. Sometimes I read the hadith where they say the Prophet Muhammad drank cold water, and I was like, cold water, how did they get it? Because I live in the desert, I know the desert, and I know how hot the desert can be. And they say they get cold water, and then I measure it with us now that we get cold water to drink. The refrigerator makes things very cold. And they say the Prophet Muhammad drinks cold water. It means cold in terms of what? Their time and their situation. So he says it is colder than snow. And imagine someone who is in the desert and then he knows of snow. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Wa ahla min al-asal. It is sweeter than honey. Wa atyab rihan min al-misk. It has a beautiful smell more than misk. Akwabuhu mithlu nujum as-sama. The cups that we are going to drink from is as many as the stars in the sky. Man shariba minhu sharbatan. Anybody who takes a sip, lam yadhma' ba'daha abada. You will never go thirsty. You see, this water, when you drink it, first and foremost, is going to take out any form of envy and jealousy from your heart. You are going to be set to factory reset. Clean everything. Because if you enter the Jannah and then you see what someone else has and then you still have envy, it's going to be a problem. Like we have in the dunya. Someone comes and then he parks a car, you park your own, and you are looking at the car. So you want to smash his windscreen out of envy and jealousy. You don't want to tell us safeguard us. So it's going to clean all that. And any sickness and any trouble you have is going to clean everything. The digestive system is going to be blocked, because if you enter Jannah, there is no going to the bathroom, there is no going using the bath. All that it is trouble in the dunya. In the Jannah, there is nothing like that. And it's going to make all of us young people. So the Prophet ﷺ said, أول الناس عليه ورودا صعاليك المهاجرين. The Prophet ﷺ said, the first people who are going to come to the pond to drink that water are the poor people of the Muhajirin. And by extension, we the poor people of this time too. Because in the dunya, these people, they enjoy all the good things. In the akhirah too, they beat us to it. See, so when you find yourself, struggling with the pocket, don't worry. You meet the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the house. Yes. If you have difficulty paying the bills, you remain steadfast. Worship the Almighty Allah. You meet the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on that. And then قال قائل, someone said, وَمَنْ هُمْ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ? Who are these people? Who are these poor people? قال الشعثة رؤوسهم. He said their heads it's like our heads, we black people. أشعث أغبر. The hair is unkept. As when we grow our hair is unkept. We need to be combing it all the time. So he said their hairs are what? Are unkept. Because the poor man, you have the $20 to go and have a haircut. You don't have that. He said, Ad-danasatu thiyabuhum. Their clothes are dirty. Because they go through tough time. They don't have the luxury to be changing clothes all the time. Their clothes are dirty. Sometimes they have 1 or 2 or 3 clothes. They need to wash it all the time. So sometimes they'll have to wear one dress 3, 4, 5 times before they wash it. Allah Akbar. La yuftah lahum as-sudad. The big people in a community don't open their doors for them. The rich people do not open their doors for them. وَلَا يُنْكِحُونَ الْمُتَنَعِّمَاتِ. They are not giving the beautiful girls to get married to. الَّذِينَ يُعْطَوْنَ كُلَّ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا يَأْخُذُونَ الَّذِي لَهُمْ. These people that are going to be the first people to drink from the pond, they always give all out. They give everything that they own. He's a poor man. He comes to the masjid to come and clean the masjid. He sacrifices his time. The rich man will call him, hey, I need this thing, that he runs and then he gives everything. وَلَا يَأْخُذُونَ الَّذِي لَهُمْ. But then they cannot take what really belongs to them. This hadith has made me emotional right now. Poor people. If you are poor in this dunya, abshir. Good news. Be patient with Almighty Allah. Worship the Almighty Allah. And then the rich people who did not give you their daughters for marriage, who do not open their doors for you, their home, anytime you visit them, you have to stay outside. You don't come in, because if you come in, your shoes are worn out, you're going to tear their rags for them. If you sit on their sofa, they've bought $15,000 sofa. If you sit on the sofa, you're going to make the sofa dirty. So you have to stay outside. You can't sit in their cars. Be patient. The Prophet Muhammad said, you going to be the first ones to drink from the pond. If you're going to be the first one to drink from the pond, it means by the time these other guys get to the pond, you are already in Jannah. Because you're already gone. May Almighty Allah safeguard us. This hadith teaches us a lesson that we need to be patient with the situations and the conditions that we find ourselves in, especially if we don't have, huge pockets. And that let's be patient if people reject us. Let's be patient if the big people do not open their doors to us. Let's be patient if we don't have, enough clothes to wear. You can see the hadith explains almost every situation that a poor person is. His hair is unkept. The clothes are dirty. The doors of the big people are closed to him. He doesn't have the money to marry the beautiful ones. He only sees them and says, oh Allah, when can I have this one? You'll have one in Jannah, don't worry. They always give out their best. Whatever they have, they give it out. But then they cannot take back what is their due. Sometimes you go to buy from a poor person and it's $5. And then you negotiate, I'll give you $3. Now, give them the $5. But then you go to the big stores and then it's a fixed price of $200. You don't negotiate. You take out your credit card and you pay. You take out your debit card, you pay. You pay cash. But then the poor person by the roadside selling a dress, how much is it? He says $15. And I'm going to give you $12. I'm going to give you $10. And what does he do? He doesn't have any option. He needs the money to buy food, to pay the bills. So he's short change. He takes the $10 like that. You don't know, he might even have bought the thing $10, or he took it from that store for $10. And then he's on the street hawking to sell $15 so that he can get $5 on it. And then you even go further to even buy the thing $8. Shortchanging the person. I'm not saying it is haram, but I'm saying that it is not part of the muru'ah. It's not part of, the sanctity. And then, the reputation of a Muslim. It's not a part of it at all. When you meet the poor person on the street, and the thing is $8, when you give them $10, tell them to keep the change. Tell them to keep the change. How much, what is $2 going to do to you? When you have thousands already. Let them keep the change. Keep it. You see, when the person keeps that $2, even if they don't say, may Allah bless you, the peace and the happiness that they get in their hearts, the appreciation that they get in their heart, Almighty Allah is definitely going to reward you. May Almighty Allah safeguard us. Why did Almighty Allah reveal this, Surah Al-Bazzar and other scholars, narrate that Ibn Abbas says Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf came to Mecca, and then the Quraysh said, Anta sayyiduhum ala tara. They just spoke bad about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They said, don't you see هذا المنصبر المنبتر, this guy who has no legacy. Why did he say he has no legacy? Because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his male children died at a younger age. And you knew to continue the lineage and then the legacy of a person, it is through his male children. Because my daughter is going to get married to another man, and then she is going to give birth to kids who are going to continue his lineage. That is why even in the Western society, kids take the names of who? Their fathers. And that doesn't mean that the women are not important. Who gives birth? Isn't it the woman? It's the woman. But then, this is also scientifically proven, because women have XX chromosomes, right? And the men have XY chromosomes. So anytime there is intimacy, it is the man who determines the sex of the child. If the man donates X, the woman will always donate X, because she always has XX chromosomes. So if he donates X and she has already brought X, the child is going to be a female. If he donates Y and then she already is going to donate what? X, they're going to give birth to what? To a male child. So stop pestering your wives when they give birth to female daughters. It is you. It is your fault. It is your fault. Because Almighty Allah makes it clear. Alam yakun nutfatan min maniyyin yumna. Isn't a man created from a sperm drop? And who has the sperm? You or her? You. I know I know someone who has almost 8 children, all are girls. He always wanted to have a son. And then he went to marry a woman who is a divorcee. She had 2 sons. Her mother before her had 5 sons. So he realized that this woman has already given birth to 2. Her mother gave birth to 5. So remaining 3, he was going to get that. When he got married to her, she got pregnant and she gave birth to twins, girls, 2. So it is you a man. You are responsible for that. Stop pestering the sisters. Stop disturbing her. Why are you giving birth to girls? Who impregnated her? You. So who is responsible? You. Stop pestering the woman. The Almighty Allah gives kids to whoever He wants. He gives males to whoever He wants. He gives females to whoever He wants. He mixes it up for some people, and some people He doesn't give them at all. So if you are having female daughters, already females are daughters. So if you are having daughters, Alhamdulillah. If you are having sons, Alhamdulillah. If it is mixing up, Alhamdulillah. If you don't have, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. May Almighty Allah safeguard us. So the Prophet Muhammad lost his boys at a young age. And the kuffar of Makkah were like, well, Muhammad is done. He's lost all his sons. Who is going to continue his name? Who is going to continue his legacy? So the Almighty Allah revealed this verse, this surah, and there are a lot of, information concerning that, and I've spent a lot of time talking about the introduction to the surah. I want us to go straight into the surah and then look at them one after another. Shaykhana, inna a'tainaka.
إنا أعطيناك الكوثر.
Inna, verily we, who? The Almighty Allah. Why did the Almighty Allah use a plural pronoun here? Why did he didn't say ana? He said inna, we. It is damir al-azamatu wal-kibriya. It is the pronoun of magnificence and power and might. Even modern day kings, when they speak, they say we, they don't say I. So there's nothing wrong with that. Don't say that it means that we have a lot of Allah. Since you say inna, we. No, that's not what it means. أعطيناك الكوثر, we've given you al-kawthar. Al-kawthar in the Arabic language, min al-kathra, from a lot. So we've given you a lot. We've given you plentiful. We've given you too much. That's what it means. أي كل شيء العرب تسمى كل شيء كثير في العدد والقدر والخطر كوثرا. Anything that is plenty, the Arab call it al-kawthar. Now, the scholars have differed. What is al-kawthar that the Prophet Muhammad was given? What is that plentiful thing that the Prophet Muhammad was given? The first statement is إنه نهر في الجنة. Imam al-Bukhari narrates a hadith from Anas bin Malik, and Tirmidhi also narrates the hadith where al-kawthar means nahrun fil jannah, means a river in Jannah. Al-kawthar. So the Almighty Allah gave the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam a what? A river in Jannah. Imam al-Tirmidhi narrates a hadith from Ibn Umar where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-Kawtharu nahrun fil Jannah. Kawthar is a river in Jannah. Hafatahu min dhahab. It banks. The river banks is made of gold. Wa majrahu ala ad-durri wal yaqut. Its riverbed is made from sapphire. Wa turbatuhu atyabu min al-misk. The soil of the river has a sweeter smell than al-misk. وَمَاؤُهُ أَحْلَى مِنَ الْعَسَلِ. Its water is sweeter than honey. وَأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الثَّلْجِ. It is whiter than snow. Imam al-Tirmidhi and Imam Ahmad narrate this hadith. So this is the first meaning of Al-Kawthar. It is what? A river in Jannah. Number two, أَنَّهُ حَوْضُ النَّبِيُّ فِي الْمَوْقِفِ. This is the basin of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we spoke earlier on, where we spoke of the hadith where he said, some people will be driven away from that. So these two, we have what? Hadith on that. The third one, they say, أَنَّ الْكَوْثَرَ النُّبُوَّةُ وَالْكِتَابِ. They said Kawthar means prophethood and then the Quran. Another statement says, Al-Kawthar al-Quran. It is al-Quran. Another statement says, Al-Islam. Kawthar is Al-Islam. Another statement says, Taysirul Quran wa takhfifu shara'i. It is making the Quran easy and making the laws of the Almighty Allah easy. Another statement says, Kawthar kathratul ashab wal ummati wal ashya'. It means a lot of Sahaba, a lot of companions, a lot of Ummah, a lot of members in the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another statement says, Kawthar is al-ithar, selflessness. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very, very selfless. He put people's needs ahead of his need. So Kawthar means that. Another statement says, Innahu rif'atu dhikr, meaning, raising your status. His status has been risen. And then another statement says it also is a light. Another statement says it's what? His miracles. Another statement says that it is La ilaha illallah. Another statement says it's the 5 daily prayers. Another statement says it is understanding of the deen. I have almost 20 something statements here meaning of Al-Kawthar. But then the first two are the most authentic ones because we have hadith supporting that. And our Aqidah Ahlus-Sunnah Jama'ah is all about Al-Quran wa Sunnah. But that doesn't mean that we'll bring the other statements of what? Of the scholars. Al-Kawthar is a river in Jannah and what? And a basin of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So The Almighty Allah said, I have given you a lot of good. Some of the scholars are saying Al-Kawthar means a lot of good. So when the people said that you don't have any legacy because your kids, your male kids are all dead, the Almighty Allah said, don't worry, I have given you a lot of kids that are even bigger than, a lot of things that are bigger than even kids. The Prophet Muhammad didn't leave behind any male child to continue his name, but then the most popular name in the world today is what? Is Muhammad.
MashaAllah.
If you go to UK, recently a study says that Muhammad is the most popular name in newborn kids in the United Kingdom. The number of children being born and named Muhammad has the higher number of names. In UK, Muhammad. And don't worry, every day we Muslims at least call his name Ashhadu Anna Muhammad Rasulullah 5 times. So Muhammad doesn't need a son to continue his name. He doesn't need a son to continue his legacy. From the east to the west, from the north to the south, there is no country today in the world that Muhammad's name is not blared out on the loudspeakers 5 times a day. It's even 10 times because he said Ashhadu Anna Muhammad Rasulullah 2 times. So it's 10 times. And in every salah, we say what? At-tahiyatu lillah, az-zakiyatu lillah, at-tayyibatu salawatu lillah, assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi. In the end, we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Muhammad's name is mentioned all the time. He doesn't need a son to continue his name. He doesn't need anybody. There is a abiyat I've forgotten. I don't like forgetting these things at all. وَشَقَّ لَهُ مِنْ إِسْمِهِ لِيُجِلَّهُ. The Almighty Allah gave the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam the name so that he's going to what? He's going to raise his status. فَذُو الْعَرْشِ مَحْمُودٌ وَهَذَا مُحَمَّدٌ. The owner of the arsh is Mahmud. He's the one who deserves to be praised. And Muhammad is also the praiseworthy. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam doesn't need anybody to continue his legacy. So the Almighty Allah told him, I've given you a lot of good. I've given you all these things. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. Now pray to your Lord. وَانْحَرْ, and then you slaughter your animal. Now, the scholars have differed concerning this. Some of them, Ikrimah and Qatada and Ata, say فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ, it means Salatul Eid on the day of Nahr. That this Salah here is talking of the Eid prayer, not this one that is coming, the next one that is coming. Salatul Eid. Wanhar, and then you slaughter your animal. Sa'id ibn Jubair says, صَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ صَلَاةَ الصُّبْحِ الْمَفْرُوضَةُ بِجَمْعٍ. Pray Fajr prayer in Jam'. Wanhar budna bimina, and then slaughter your animal at Mina. Sa'id ibn Jubair says that نزلت في الحديبية حين حصر النبي عن البيت فأمره الله تعالى أن يصلي وينحر البدن وينصرف. This happened on Sulh Hudaybiyah. I think 2 lessons ago we were speaking about إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح. We spoke about Sulh Hudaybiyah. If you want more explanation on that, you go to that video and then you watch, because it's a long, class. So that's what it means, that slaughter your prey and then you slaughter your animal. The scholars are saying, why did the Almighty Allah tell the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to pray and then slaughter his animal? Is thanking the Almighty Allah for all the goods that the Almighty Allah gave him in Al-Kawthar. Thank the Almighty Allah. Pray to him alone. For salli rabbika, for only your God. Wanhar, everything you are going to do it for Allah and Allah alone, because it is Allah who has what? Who has given it to you, not human beings. So thank the Almighty Allah. Now, there is another interpretation for salli rabbika wanhar. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu says that it means raise your hand when you are going to do takbir. It is reported in An-Nikat wal-Uyun, and even I think Imam al-Tabari, narrates this in his tafsir, and Ibn Kathir also narrates this, and it's narrated from Abu Ja'far Baqir to Muhammad ibn Ali, and then to Imam Ali radiallahu anhu, that raise your hand And don't forget, we said an-nahar also means what? Your neck. So for salli rabbika wanhar means pray to your Lord, raise your hand to what? To your neck. So that's where we were going to do takbiratul ihram. You raise it up like this. كذا قال أبو جعفر عن علي فصل ربك وانحر قال يرفع يديه أول ما يكبر للإحرام إلى النحر. So we have another interpretation. And Abi Salih and Ibn Abbas says استقبل القبلة وانحر بيستقبل القبلة بنحرك, that when you're going to slaughter your animal, face the qibla with it and then slaughter the animal. That's also another interpretation. And there are a lot of statements here. Another statement says, you raise your hand with dua. فَصَلِّ رَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. Ibn al-Arabi says, وَالَّذِي عِنْدِي أَنَّهُ أَرَادْ. What it really means, according to Ibn al-Arabi, in Ahkam al-Quran, he says, اُعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ, worship your Lord, وَانْحَرْ لَهُ, and then slaughter animals for him and him alone. فَلَا يَكُنْ عَمَلُكَ إِلَّا لِمَنْ خَصَّكَ بِالْكَوْثَرِ. Do not, do your deeds except for who gave you that al-kawthar. That's what فَصَلِّ رَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ means, that pray and then slaughter only for the Almighty Allah. Meaning, any form of ibadah that you're going to do is going to be for only the Almighty Allah, because it's only the Almighty Allah who gave you that, not human beings. This verse teaches us about what? Al-Ikhlas. Doing it for the sake of the Almighty Allah. Now, Nahr, that is slaughtering the animal. We have camels, we have cows, we have sheep, and then we have goats. These are the animals that the Sunnah have taught us to slaughter for the day of Eid. For the day of Eid. There is a narration which is not authentic that Bilal, used a chicken for Eid. And the Prophet Muhammad asked him, Bilal, what did you use for chicken? Not you. What did you use for chicken? He said, what did you use for Eid? He said chicken. And he said, mu'adhinun dhaha bi mu'adhin. That the mu'adhin, who is Bilal, has used another mu'adhin, which is the chicken, to do, Eid, because the chicken will crow, for Fajr. That is not authentic. That is not authentic. You use these 4 animals. So, for example, the camel and the cow, you can have 7 people, combining your monies together. That's okay. And then, the sheep and then the goats, and you do it. If you don't have money, the Prophet Muhammad has already done udhiyah on your behalf. Because when he was doing that, he used 2, rams. He said one for himself and his family, and one for the poor people of his ummah who cannot have the money to do the sacrifice. So if you don't have money, the Prophet has done it for you. Is there any better thing than that? So don't worry yourself. Don't go and take some loans to get a ram to disturb. Later you are dodging the community. We are looking for you in the masjid. You won't come because you took loans from people to go and get a ram. No, don't do that. You would slaughter the animal before the Eid prayer. You don't slaughter the animal after the Eid prayer. Maybe in its appropriate time we'll speak about it, because there's no much time. Another narration says, فَصَلِّ رَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ is you put your right hand on your left hand in salah. This is also found from Imam Ali radiallahu anhu, and Imam al-Daraqutni also narrates this hadith in his Sunan, that you put your right hand on your left hand. Scholars have differed concerning, putting your right hand on your left hand in salah. Which is it? Some said you do it only in the compulsory prayer, you don't do it in the nafila prayer. Some of them said you do it in the nafila prayer, you don't do it in the compulsory prayer. But then the most authentic one is you do it in both. You do it in the nafila and then you do it in the compulsory prayer. You put your right hand over your left hand. Like this. Not like this. Not like this. Not like this. Your palms should be on the wrist. This is it. This is how it is done. Your palms, not like this. It's not like this. Your right palm holds the left wrist like this. And then They differed onto where you're going to do it. The authentic one is on the chest, not on your stomach. You have a big stomach like me, you don't put it on your stomach. No, it's on the chest like this. In another narration, you place it on your navel. Another narration, you place it below the navel. But the authentic one is what? You place it on what? You use the right palm to place it on the left palm like this. So it's not like this. It's not like this. It's not as if you are angry. Like, you know what's up? You're giving Allah a pose. There's no pose in this one. It's like this. And it is a sunnah of the prophets. It's a sunnah of the prophets. Even though some statement in the Maliki school of thought, some statement says you leave it down. So we grew up and then we saw, some of our shuyukh back home in West Africa who follow the Maliki school of thought. They don't hold their hands, they leave it. Up to now we find some of them, but that is not an authentic position even in the Maliki school of thought. It is not an authentic position. It is a wrong position in the Maliki school of thought. We can say this categorically. Because even in Muwatta Malik, Imam Malik has brought hadith speaking about what? Putting the right hand on the left hand. I don't know why that position was developed in the Maliki school of thought. Maybe Imam Malik was sometime beaten and then his shoulders dislocated. So in Salah he couldn't hold his hand. He put it down and some of them thought it is a position that he held. No, it was a situation. Maybe. I'm not emphatic about that. Maybe that's the reason. But then Imam Malik in his Muwatta has placed the right hand over the left, putting the palm on the wrist. This is it, on the chest. That's it. But then if maybe you are heavy and you cannot, no problem like this, no problem. But then if you can, because in the deen, anything that uses it, there's flexibility in the deen. But if you can do it, hold it. That is why in Salah, if you cannot stand, sit. Yes. If you cannot sit like this, maybe just get something that you're going to lean upon. So in Salah, if you can stand but with difficulty, then you have a stick, you can hold a stick to get what? To get support. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The deen is very, very easy. Now, concerning raising the hands, we said, raise your hand, Allahu Akbar. Is it for every act in the Salah? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Sami Allahu Alhamdulillah. In Sahihain, in Bukhari and Muslim, Ibn Umar قال رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا قام إلى الصلاة. Ibn Umar says, I saw the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم anytime he's going to pray, رفع يديه حتى تكون حذو المنكبيه. He raises his hands up to the level of his shoulders like this. ثم يكبر, and then he says الله أكبر. وكان يفعل ذلك حين يكبر للركوع. When he's going to go to ruku too, he does the same thing, Allahu Akbar. ويفعل ذلك حين يرفع رأسه من الركوع. And then he does that when he raises, he's getting up from ruku. So سمع الله لمن حمده, he raises his hand. ولا يفعل ذلك حين يرفع رأسه من السجود. But then he doesn't do that when he raises his head from what? From sujood. It means he says Allah Akbar to sujood too, but then when he's coming from sujood, he doesn't raise his hand. Because sometimes I see people doing that. They're coming from sujood, they raise their hand. This is not the class for salah. So I'm not going to say that is wrong. No, I'm not going to say that is wrong. Because I've not done enough research on that. I've only done research on this one. So I need to be very careful. Fatwa is very dangerous. You can't just get up and then give a statement that you've not read about. And it's a long statement here. It is written here, but I've not read it because that's not what I need. And then the last verse, Inna shani'aka.
إن شانئك هو الأبتر.
Now, the last verse, Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. Shani'aka means those who hate you. Huwa al-abtar, those are the ones who do not have any lineage, any legacy. So the Almighty Allah spoke about the good that He gave the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then He ordered him to pray and thank the Almighty Allah alone. Now, don't worry. What they are saying concerning you, that your sons are dead, so nobody is going to, remember your lineage. They are the ones who their lineage is never going to be remembered. Today, when we mention Abu Jahl and we mention Abu Lahab and we mention Walid ibn Mughira, we mention As ibn Wa'il, it is because of who that we are mentioning them? Because of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Their names are being mentioned because we are mentioning the name of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then is it every time that we mention the Prophet that we mention their name? No. It's only when we are discussing this issue that they even get the opportunity for us to even mention their names. They had sons, they gave birth to sons. Abu Lahab, his sons ran away and then they left him. He died with all forms of skin diseases. But the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his name remained, visible today, tomorrow, until the end of time. That is the most popular name in the world. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there are traditions. I know of a family. They have 10 boys, all are Muhammad. So Muhammad Lawal, Muhammad Awwal, Muhammad the first, Muhammad Thani, Muhammad the second, Muhammad Thalith, Muhammad the third, Muhammad Rabiu, Muhammad the fourth, Muhammad Khamis, Muhammad the fifth, Muhammad Sadis, Muhammad the sixth, Muhammad Sabi', Muhammad the seventh, Muhammad Thamin, Muhammad the eighth, Muhammad Tasi', Muhammad the ninth, Muhammad Ashir, Muhammad the 10th. I know of a family like that. Their father say all his kids are going to be called Muhammad. All his sons. So, and you hear the Hausa people, they have Lawali, they have Sani, they have Salisu, they have Rabiu, they have Khamisu, they have Sadisu, they have Sabiu, they have Faminu, they have Tasiu, they have Ashiru. It's all Muhammad. It's all Muhammad. It's all Muhammad. So, this is who the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, and we cannot, speak more concerning who the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the legacy that he's left behind. And you hear some of our topmost scholars, they are called Muhammad. Like Bukhari, his name is Muhammad ibn Ismail. Shafi is called Muhammad ibn Idris. So you find them Muhammad. Tabari, Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari. Muhammad. Fathers, when they give birth, the name is Muhammad. So if you come and say the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has what, a cut of lineage, it's not true. He doesn't need a family. He doesn't need a son to continue his lineage. And let's not forget, the Shia, they interpreted Al-Kawthar meaning Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was continued with Fatima through his grandsons Hassan and Hussein, and and the rest of the kids. But then we, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we say the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't interpret Al-Kawthar to mean Al-Fatima. He didn't say that, even though he knew Fatima was his daughter. And even for the record, we are not going to have, headache over that. That no, it's not Fatima. No, there's no need for us to. It's Fatima. No, there's no need for that. But then, when you go through the narrations, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Kawthar nahrun fil jannah," and he said, "Hawdun wa'adanihi Rabbi." He said it's a river in Jannah, and he said it is what? It is a basin that the Almighty Allah has given me, that my companions and my people are going to drink from it. But the Shia say it is Fatima because the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad was continued through Fatima, and then his sons Hassan and Hussein, and then the rest. We don't have a problem with that. Hassan and Hussein are grandsons of the Prophet Muhammad through his daughter Fatima. Same way there is Kulthum, who is also a daughter of Fatima radiallahu anha. But then the problem is that the Shia always, they just maintain only Hassan and Hussein, and especially Hussein. They have their own, reasons for only maintaining Hussein. But we say that all the grandchildren of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ahlul Bayt, they are part of the family of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not only Hassan or Hussein, because Imam Ali radiallahu anhu with Fatima had a couple of kids, not only Hassan and Hussein. The number doesn't, come into mind, but I believe they had Zainab too. They had Kulthum. And Ali radiallahu anhu, when Fatima died, he got married. Ali had close to 30 children. 30 kids. Yes. My uncle here is surprised. Yes, strong man. He had 30 kids. And amongst his kids, he had Abu Bakr, he had Omar. He named some of them like that. So just to let you know that maybe if you meet a Shia and then you are discussing this surah and you tell him Kawthar means, a river in general, you tell you no, it is Fatima, and then you get surprised. No, that's the position that you've taken. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم. We will take some questions inshallah. Abdullah, switch it off. Yeah, today the questions are going to flow. So let's start here.